you going, eh? I just wanted to go over how to get your car going good for cheap. And yeah, I don't feel too shit hot today. I kind of feel like I kind of smashed assholes, but this is my philosophy on it. I don't know about you guys down in the States, but up here we've been having wage cuts for about the last 10 years and everything else is doubling in price. So everyone's jerking off the dog to feed the cat these days. So anyhow, I kind of put a little list of things I like to use that are proven and they won't break the bank. So as for transmissions, I like B&M shift kits just because they're cheap and they do what they're supposed to do. You can look over the video what I did to this tranny, and yeah, it should work good for me. They may not be the most sophisticated shift kit, but they definitely trip gears, so I like them. As for converters, I put a real cheap one in this. I do not recommend it. It's probably gonna shit the bed on me. But if you want a cheap converter that will work and work damn good, is a Hughes converter. I can't say enough good about them. They're awesome and they're not much more than these cheap ones. Transmission fluid. Use Type F Ford fluid. It's the same as B&M trick shift except without dye in it, so that's a good way to go. As for shifters, don't get caught up in the ratchet shifter bullshit. I bet you after you have one for a bit you'll want to pull your hair out. I hate them. They're absolute garbage. I prefer a factory shifter, or there's a shifter called the Winters gated shifter, and it's probably about the cheapest shifter on the market, and it works damn good. I'd go gated over ratchet any day. As for transmission coolers, don't go spend a bunch of money on a transmission cooler. Go to your junkyard and get a cooler like that. Just go find one on a truck. Make sure you clean it out real good, because in case it came from a blown up tranny, and you should be laughing. It'll keep your hot rod cool, and you'll be good to go. Alright, we'll move on to ignition. As for spark plug wires, I really like Taylor wires. I'll show you what they look like. They're one of the cheaper wires on the market, and they're great. And they're custom made to your car. They have lots of applications, so just give me a sec. Alright, those are the Taylor wires. They're awesome. They have very little ohms of resistance. They're a great wire. As for plugs, I know a lot of other people will argue, but I like AC Delco plugs. I heard they're made in China now. Maybe I just get old stock, but they've always worked good for me. Cap and rotors. And HEIs, if that's what you're into. The Davis is hard to beat, and they won't take your firstborn child. They're good value for your money. And as for distributors, I like just working with the factory one and changing some weights and springs. Wire separators. This one's got actual ones on it, but you can take a zip tie, wrap it around the whole thing, and then put zip ties in between and cut them off. You'll probably cut yourself where you cut them off because they're like razor blades after, but it's a good way of doing things. Ignition coils. These old Excels are pretty hard to beat. The only one I'd prefer is like a Mallory Voltmaster or that type of coil. I think they're better, but these are damn hard to beat, so they hold their own, and you can buy them cheap, and they always work. So it's another good thing. Check for used ones, swap meets, whatever. Carburetors. If you want to go fast, the Holley's kind of the way to go. But these old Holleys, they get all warped and they're leaking, and they cost a fortune to rebuild, and they're not as easy to rebuild. So you can get yourself AFBs. They're very cheap. You can rebuild one with your eyes closed in about 20 minutes, and the rebuild kit costs about $20 to do. So that's a good option, you know, if you're using used carburetors. If you like multi-carb setups, look at old Ford flatheads and shit like that. You can get yourself some Holley 94s or Strongberg 97s. They're also very simple and they actually run very well. And if you want a new carb for the cheap, I'll show you what I really like. Alright, carburetors. This is a Holley Street Demon 750. It's kind of a thermoquad knockoff, kind of crossed with an AFB. Awesome carb. It'll support 450 horsepower motor all day. If you're running 10s, it's not the carb for you. If you're running 12s, don't pass it up. It's awesome. I put about a half a dozen of them on different guys' cars now. Can't say enough good about it. Awesome carb. You can adjust the secondary spring on the air door, and they're bloody awesome. And they're almost like a 3-barrel kind of setup. Good setup. Alright, fuel pumps. That puppy there is an Edelbrock pump. It's got cooling fins on the motor. It is hard to beat. It works great. The new Holleys are junk. If you can find an old one, it'll probably work fine for you. Same goes for Carter. If you can find an old Carter, it'll work great. The new ones, not such a good. So, yeah, maybe if you're into mechanical pumps, an OEM or one of those Carters or whoever made them, the ones you can change the diaphragm out, they're awesome too. But you might get a little heat soak and things like that. But yeah, it'll get the job done for sure. Alright, exhaust. I don't care what anyone says. Flow masters should be called choke masters. Any kind of a muffler that's not a straight through design that has directions of change is garbage. If you want a muffler that flows like crazy and is quiet, these are called pipes, spelled with a Y, P-Y-P-E-S. Pipes Race Pros. They're extremely quiet, and they flow just like a straight through muffler. They just have a perforated tube and packing, and they are not loud. They are not loud at all. They're quieter than a Flowmaster, and they flow like a straight pipe. And if you want to go the cheaper route, a glass pack like a Thrush is hard to beat. They're a little louder. The longer they are, the quieter they are. But when you go get a glass pack, get the one that's got a perforated tube, not a louvered core. A louvered core chokes it down and doesn't flow as good. So that's what I would be looking into. Chamber mufflers are junk. Headers and exhaust manifolds. If you're building a drag car, of course you're going to need long tube headers. There's not much way around it. If you're running a street car, look for high flow factory manifolds. These are 5-liter high output manifolds, very good manifold, same as a shorty header. Gains from an aftermarket one would be very little. If you're a Chevy guy, you know, they had those Ram Horde manifolds and the Corvette ones that had the 2.5-inch outlets for a small block Chev. Pretty hard to beat those two. And I actually like the sound of a car with manifolds. They're not so tinny in the front. They just have a nice music note coming out the back. Charging systems, it's pretty hard to beat, and starters, it's very hard to beat factory. If you can rebuild the factory one and it'll do the trick for you, hard to beat. You could probably also look into different things to retrofit, like Cadillac had some very big one-wire alternators you could probably make work on pretty much any car. If you want to spend a few bucks, get yourself Power Master. Power Master makes great starters and alternators. But don't be fooled by some cheap alternator that says 200 amps, because it will leave you on the side of the road in no time. Traction. Now, if you're going to spend the money on a tire and you want her to hook, M&H Racemaster is the only thing I'd look into. They're like nothing else. They'll hook on dirt, those fucking things. So, yeah, that's an M&H Racemaster N5015. But do you need an N5015? Probably not. Go the smallest tire, unless you just want it for looks. The smaller the tire, the better. It has less drag to roll, and as long as it hooks, like there's lots of guys getting in the 8s on a 9-inch slick, so that kind of speaks for itself. As for traction, I don't have it on this car yet, but if you're running a leaf spring car, Uncle Tony said it before as well, cut your clamps off the back. It'll help the rear end plant. You can run also an extra leaf on the passenger side, an air shock, or even an overloader shock with like a Monroe or whatever with the coil over on the passenger side. If you're running a coil car, put a football in your passenger side coil. Just buy a football that fits and play with the pressure. Probably around 10 pounds is going to work for you. And since it's got upper and lower control arms, take your lower control arms off and box them in with steel plate and weld them up, because those ones get pushed in. The top ones get stretched, and they're not going to get stretched, so but the bottom ones can kink. So you can box them in, and yeah, you should be looking pretty good for your 60 foot if you do that type of thing. Also, if you want a sticky tire, like BF Goodrich Radial TA or something like that, they're only going to get you so far. Once you're in the 13s, they're going to light up pretty good. If you have dirt oval guys around you, they run tires such as McCreary, American Racer, and Hoosier dirt tires, and they're made of extremely sticky compound. And those guys chuck their tires out at about 80% tread, so you can pick them up for nothing. Do they drive good on the street or legal? No. But will they hook? Yes. I think street racer guys have been using them forever, so don't throw them out to take a look at for some used ones, and you can get them for $50 a piece. And if you're just building a budget car to launch on, they will work for you. Also with traction, you can build yourself, your own traction bars, because they don't give them away and they're just stamped Chinese crap metal. So you could probably got some scrap laying around, or you can go pick some up. Maybe a buddy's got a car with a set of traction bars on it. You could do some measurements, copy them right up, make yourself a set that are 10 times better than what he has for a fraction of the price. Same thing with pinion snubbers. There's not much to it. You can build an adjustable pinion snubber, and that'll help. So anyhow, maybe I gave a few people good ideas, maybe a few bad ones. I don't really know, but it works for me. And last but not least, don't let cheap shit bite you in the ass. For example, here's this motor. It looks beautiful. It would look nice with a set of chrome valve covers on it. I think we can all admit that. But if you're going to buy the cheap Chinese ones with the shitty chrome, they're chromed on the inside so poorly that chrome can peel off because it's not done properly, and put that through your new motor. So for some fancy valve covers, well, not even fancy, shitty chrome valve covers that you have under your hood that no one's going to see unless your hood's popped anyhow, you just cost yourself catastrophic failure. So yeah, that's my take on it. If you have any questions, hit me up. I could go make a video on this all day. I got lots of ideas, but only so much time. All right, have a good one, guys. Till next time.